Hello there everybody, yo soy Alonso y están escuchando el podcast de Salón de Idiomas. Hola, ¿qué tal están? Bienvenidos a un nuevo episodio del podcast del Salón de Idiomas. Y I have to switch to English immediately since I have a special guest today.
Hello everyone, this is Bruna.
So Bruna has been here for quite some time, even longer than me, right?
Yep, I think almost or more than 4 years.
Okay, so tell me a little bit more about you.
Well, I've been teaching here for almost 4 or even more than 4 years. And I've been a teacher for ever, basically. I don't think I have done anything else decently in life. And yeah, I've been preparing people for all types of exams for quite a long time.
So this is obviously out of topic, but I just gotta ask you, do you have this thing? I just noticed that when you keep teaching for a long time, you eventually start repeating yourself even though that is not necessary.
100% of the time. I think I have done that like 4 times by now, and I am probably gonna do it a lot more, so yes.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm just curious, what is the thing that you have been teaching the most here?
Oh, that's such a difficult question. Now, I've been teaching Aptis and language cert, and I think those are like my go-to thing, but yeah. C1 certificates.
And definitely Aptis, which is our bread and butter, and which is actually what we're going to talk about today, right?
Yep.
Great, so we're going to focus today on the Aptis Advanced, which is for C1 and C2. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Well, I've taken the Aptis Advanced a long time ago to see how it felt like, what it was the experience to be there and actually do the exam. And I have to say that it's a very robotic thing, if that makes any sense. You get there and the first thing you do is the speaking part, then you do the listening, and from there you can go with whichever other skill you want. And it's kind of shocking because as the first thing you do is the speaking, and you have to be prepared for the speaking part because everyone does the speaking at the same time. I mean, roughly, I would say there were like 50 or even 60 people there, not together in the same room. So when I got there, the first thing they did was like to check my ID, and they gave me a paper with a bunch of codes that you're supposed to use to do this certain parts of the exam. And they divided the group in like two groups of people. So it was like with me in the class, there must have been like 20 people, and they were all doing the speaking at the same time. So it's like, can you think of the chaos?
Yeah, everybody's like, yeah, and all the time.
Exactly like that. Like you put on your headphones and everybody tests the audio, and it's already a shock because you put there and you're supposed to say 1, 2, 3. And then it's like 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, all around the room. Yes. So it's crazy. You have to be super focused. And you have to be prepared. Like you have to train for that, Okay, so let me get this straight. You don't actually interact with a human being during the entire test, right? Not at all. It's all computer-based. So you listen to recordings. So each step of the test, you have to press stuff in the computer, and then at each part, you listen to a beep, and they record your answer to specific parts of the speaking. So, and as everyone is doing the speaking, and everyone is roughly around the same time, as soon as you press play or like record or whatever, everyone is doing the same thing as you.
So yeah, that can be extremely frightening. And I guess that when you are like preparing yourself, you're like, oh yeah, I want to have this quiet and nice environment just with, I don't know, I'm going to lit some candles and all that jazz. And then you stumble upon the reality and you see that it's like, I don't know, a slaughterhouse.
Exactly. You go there and it's like, this is life, people. Yeah. So if you're that kind of person that really needs silence and everything, I would totally recommend you, like when you are preparing to go there, to put on some music when you are doing your exam, like when you're preparing with the teacher, or when you are practicing your answers by yourself, to have something playing like background noise, because that's what's going to happen. And and it's crazy.
Yeah, so yeah, definitely. Yeah, I guess you should just listen to, instead of lo-fi or something relaxing, just be listening to heavy metal or something like that, right?
Yeah.
So let's rewind a little bit. How do you do the entire setup for, like, taking the test? And like, how much does it cost?
Sure.
What's the deal?
Yeah. Honestly, is it like 90 euros now or more?
Yeah, I think that it should be like that, inflation. So perhaps it has reached 100, but.
Yeah. Well, when I took it, it was like 90 euros. So it must be around that. The first thing, like the first challenge you face when you're going for Aptis Advanced is to actually have a date to do the exam, because it's so hard to get it. You have to keep checking the webpage, the British Council webpage, all the time. And they let available 2 or sometimes 3 dates per month. And that's it. You have to keep checking the webpage every day, because once the date is there, everybody buys it. And, it's not like you can choose. You have to just go with the flow.
What's up with these tests? Every time I talk with Brox about other tests, there's like about something, I don't know, anxiety-inducing thing that you have to always deal with, no matter what. It's either how long it takes you to get the results, or how long it takes you to set the appointment, or in this case, it's just like setting it up, the whole thing, like will you have availability or not? What's up with that?
Well, I blame the government. I mean, there are so many teachers going for this exam because all of you teachers need a certificate, and everyone basically is in the same position. All of this, I don't know how many students I've had in this last 4 years, but it was a lot of them, and they all come and they say, well, I'm a teacher and I'm preparing for OPOS, which is like the civil servant exam. So I guess that has, and let's face it, it's the cheapest one out there. So that's probably why it's so crazy to get like everything,
Yeah. Okay, so one thing about this test, it's really well known for that, is that it's multi-level. Can you explain that a little bit more, and what does it mean when it comes to getting the results?
Sure. So it can be both a great thing and an awful thing, to be honest, because as it is multi-level, you're going to get a certificate out of it no matter what. It can be a B2, a C1, a C2, depends on your performance. Which is, like I said, a good thing. But in Madrid, at least, you have to have a C1 certificate in every single skill of the exam. So you have to pay attention to that, because it kind of works like this. You can have a general mark, and you have the marks for each skill. So you can have 2 B2s and 2 C1s and still get a C1, a general C1, which doesn't really help teachers at all. So if you're just wanting the certificate for other purposes, then great. You just means that you don't have to work so hard in every single part of the exam. But if you're a teacher, then it just means that you have to give your best at every single part. Yeah.
Okay, so since so far it seems like this is really horrible, can we elaborate a little bit more on the pros of this test?
Of course. I'm making it sound like a monster. Yeah, no. It is the cheapest one, and also one of the easiest to prepare, because you have a very structure. Like the body of the exam is always the same. You always face the same type of exercises with the same timing. The models we have in the school are very faithful to the exam, and it doesn't, like I said, doesn't take you a long time to prepare. You can reuse structures that you have learned. So, I mean, obviously you don't know exactly which model you're going to get for a speaking or for a writing, but you go there knowing that, like, the bread and butter of the thing you have. You just need to add some spice, you know?
Got it. And you also gotta, I don't know, like have some consistency and really be focused on learning those things and having this structure really well cemented in your head. So yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, and well, definitely the price thing is also fantastic. And I guess that even like if you're not like really good at one skill in particular, for instance, listening, which is like the hardest skill in that test, for I don't know why it's so difficult. Like I know why, but I don't know why they made it like that.
Yeah, because it is a multi-level test. So it's like you have to have that into account. You can get a C2 out of it. So obviously some parts of the exam have to be difficult, because if you want to get a C2, some parts have to be, you know, C2 worthy. But that's also the pro of it, because you are always going to get something out of it. Maybe not exactly what you wanted, but something.
Like perhaps you just need the C1 and it doesn't matter how you get it. So even if you get like a B2 in listening and then you just do well on the others, then you're totally good to go.
Exactly. Or even if it's like, that's why I think so many people take it more than once, because even if you feel like you're not super prepared, but you want to know like what's the experience, you can get out of there with a B2 certificate, which can be nice.
It's always useful. Yeah, definitely. Okay, great. So from your experience, how long does it take for a person to prepare for this test?
I want to kill you right now because this is such a subjective thing. I mean, it depends so much on so many things, on how prepared you have been before that. Like, have you been studying English for your whole life, or you haven't been studying English for the last 10 years? So it depends a lot on how, like, where you're coming from. But it depends on how much time you have to dedicate to prepare to the exam. But I would say that roughly between 12 classes or so, you can already have a very good idea of what it's like and to try it if you want it. Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of like the average, I guess.
Yeah.
I guess like also one thing that like, for instance, takes really little time is, for instance, preparing for the writing, since it's pretty straightforward. I believe that's the easiest part, along with the grammar and vocabulary.
Exactly, because like in the writing, you don't have like a super varied number of structures that you have to use. It's always the same structures. So you learn that in the beginning and then you're good to go. Of course, the idea is for you to keep improving, right? And to finish the course with as much ammunition as you can. But yeah, it doesn't take that long for every single part. Like the listening is the hardest part, people, if I haven't mentioned that yet, which I totally did because of what we said before. But yeah, like it doesn't take a long time for you to understand what it's like, and then you just perfect it.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay, so let's go back to your experience. You said that you did the speaking first, and you know all this drama about having people around and everybody's yelling and everybody's mad and everybody's worried and crying. So what's next? The mad world.
No, yeah. It's not that bad. I made it sound like it's the worst thing in the planet. And no, it's just noisy. That's all.
It's just that it's really unexpected. Like, since you're probably just like, by logic, you're gonna be like, yeah, I'm just gonna like have a quiet test and all that. It doesn't.
Yeah, and even when people tell you, because you know, like I always tell my students, listen, it's going to be noisy. And then the first thing they talk to me once they finish the exam is like, oh my God, what was that speaking? Because it's not like you don't expect, because everyone is wearing the headphones. So you don't really have an idea of how loud you're speaking. And I think that has to do with it. But it's not such a bad thing. It's just for you to be prepared for it, and then you just focus on your exam and do your best, and that's it. And the speaking takes, I don't know, 15 minutes to do, and the rest of the test is really silent because everyone is focusing on their own things. I was about to swear now. On their own things. And yeah.
No worries. I have been struggling quite a bunch to not swear right now.
Yeah, I mean, people, we're friends. This is difficult.
Yeah. Okay, so while you were doing the listening test, this is something really interesting to point out. You have a limited time to do the listening test as well, even though that you are the one who plays the recording. How does that work?
Exactly. That's like a great point for you to bring up. Because in every other exam, like in your life, you get used to doing an automatic thing. Like they tell you, now you read and now it starts. And in Aptis, it's not like that at all. You have, if I'm not mistaken, 25 minutes to do everything. And that means that that's your time to do everything. And you know, you have to be able to manage that. So nobody's going to tell you have like 30 seconds to read because you have to start the audios. You press play. So if you take a long time reading, or after you listen to it, if you take a long time thinking, deciding which answer to go, then you're not going to have time to listen to all of the audios and you're not going to finish your listening exam. So you have to be, you know, straightforward. Just read the thing, press the audio, and keep moving forward. Because as difficult as it is, or as easy as it is, because I also give this advice to some students, because the first part of the listening is extremely easy sometimes. So if that's the case, if you're really sure of what you have answered, like believe your potential, you know, you don't have to listen to a person saying, I go to school by bicycle again. You can just choose bicycle and move on to the next one. So you have more time to think in the really difficult parts.
Yeah, which are unfortunately only played once.
Exactly. You only listen once and the questions are not in order with what you're listening. So I'm not going to say it's chaotic, but I'm going to say it takes you effort. Let's say like that.
Honestly speaking, my perception of it is that it's evil.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like that's why I don't understand why it's so unnecessarily challenging. Okay, great. So, and then, you know, like just reading is actually something not out of this world. So is the writing. One little thing that also is worth mentioning is that you do have a counter when you're writing, so you don't gotta worry about that. People tend to worry about that, like, oh my god, how am I gonna count the amount of words that I have used?
Yeah, so, no, they count it for you. The computer always shows you how much you have already written. And I would say that the most challenging thing about the writing is the time, because it's just 45 minutes and you have 3 different tasks to do. So that's why it's so important for you to be prepared for what you're going to face before. Because if you already have like the structures, you already know what you're supposed to do, then it shouldn't take you so long to do it. But still takes some tips. Like I'm not going to get into a lot of details here, but you have to, like the time is there. You have 45 minutes, you have to do it and just focus and get it over with. And something else that I think it's cool to talk about is the order of the exam, because I told you that you have to do the speaking first, then you have to do the listening because they tell you to, but then the paper that they give you, like when you get there, you have the codes, right? So you can use the codes to do whatever you want. So after the listening, if you want to do the writing, you can. If you want to do the reading, you can. I would say leave whatever is easier for you to the end when your brain is already more tired. I think, in my personal opinion, that going with the writing, then the reading, and finishing with grammar and vocabulary, which are not really difficult questions, would be a good way to go. But it depends a lot on you and what your strengths are. Okay, so right after this whole ordeal and the suffering and all that, I'm just messing around. This is not that bad, okay? This is a nice experience. I don't want to get sued. Especially for you guys that are like preparing to take civil servant exams. You are going to go there and you're going to say, oh, this is so easy. Exactly. This is a piece of cake, whatever. Okay, so what happens after the whole thing? You go home and you have a beer. No, I'm joking. It takes 3 days for you to get your results via email, and then I think about a month for them to send your certificate by by snail mail. So you get it on, yeah. So you already know, like after 3 business days, of course, if you do it on a Saturday, it's going to be like Wednesday probably that you get your marks. But 3 business days after, you have your marks on your email. So which is great because you already know. But the thing is, which is also something that is good to mention, because like I said before, it's a multi-level test. Sometimes people take it before they are really prepared to have the C1 or whatever. So if you have to take the exam again, you have to wait 3 months to be able to do it. So when you are preparing and planning and whatever, you have to keep that in mind, that you have to wait 3 months if you need to take it again.
Okay, so that's one really necessary thing to point out. Like you just gotta like make sure that, I don't know, you have a backup plan, or that you have taken this with enough time, you know, like, oh, I need this, I need this certificate for in a year or something like that. So if I fail,
if you have time, you can take like trial tests, let's say. But if you don't, if you really need, like, I need this for that time or that date, then you have to either work a lot on your preparing to go there and just rock it, or to be able to know like what's your time so you can take it again if you need it.
Exactly. Okay, so yeah, depending, you gotta just play your cards well. Okay, exactly. Great. Okay, so what other kind of recommendations do you have for whoever is preparing for this test?
That you prepare with Salón de Idiomas is the first thing, obviously.
Yeah, of course.
Like we rock. But I would say that you have to be, I think, I mean, with every exam, to be honest, I don't just think that about Aptis Advanced, but when you are taking official exams, you just have to know that things are the way they are. Sometimes they are frustrating, and life is life, you know, like life sucks sometimes. And you just have to deal with it. You can't just be caught up on the frustration. Like the listening part, for example, is something that students always complain, and they say, oh my God, that's so unfair and blah, blah, blah. And then you ask them and they don't listen to podcasts. They don't watch a series. They don't read a book. Like they do nothing else but to go to classes. And you know, like that's not realistic for you to go there 1 hour a week sometimes and just expect things to fall out of the sky right into your hands. That's not going to happen here or in any other thing you do ever. So I would say that, like, if you were thinking about it, then the first advice I have is increase your amount of input. So do other things, put English in your life in other ways that are more fun than the classes that I know sometimes can be boring and frustrating. Not with us.
Of course not.
but just increase your amount of input. Yeah. Okay,
great. Fantastic. Sweet. So is there anything else that you would like to share about this entire experience?
I would say it was worth it. I mean, you know, you are always going there with something in mind. And I think one of the things that I have to say again is it's just an exam. Sometimes people put so much pressure on themselves, because I understand that many people need it. And it's one thing you need to get to other, better, more important things in life. And I totally get that, but it's just an exam. It's just a day. It's like 3 hours. It's not going to be the end of the world. So just go there, do whatever you can, do your best, and then go home and be done with it, you know?
Sweet.
So, yeah.
Yeah, crack a beer.
It's like, that's exactly what I did, but not necessarily what you guys have to do, whatever float your boats. Yeah.
Okay, so I have to say this, otherwise Rox is going to get mad at me. So remember, practice makes perfect, okay?
Exactly. Yes, just keep practicing.
Fantastic. Okay, so thank you so much, Bruna, for coming here today. I hope to have you soon again.
Yeah, me too.
Fantastic. So, well, that will be it for today. So, yeah.
So thank you guys for having me, and keep listening to this because you're doing an amazing job with it. Well, everyone here at the school rocks. So, yeah, that's it.
Yay. Yay, constant validation. Okay, guys, so I'm just gonna go back for a minute and explain this whole thing a little bit more. I'm gonna try to keep it more formal. I'll try. So, bye, Bruna.
Bye, guys. Bye, Alonso.
Bueno, ya que estoy de regreso y espero poder mantener un poquito más la formalidad, así como se los prometí. Y pues aquí empezamos presentando a Bruna, quien ha estado con nosotros por aproximadamente 4 años y que lleva enseñando desde incluso antes que eso, preparando estudiantes para todo tipo de exámenes y, como no, también para inglés general, aunque no haya mencionado eso en la entrevista. Una cosa que le pregunto, y Bruna me confirma, es si tiene esa costumbre de docente que seguro que los maestros y profes que nos escuchan también la tienen, de estar repitiendo lo que dices incluso cuando no es necesario. Y bueno, ya hablando del tema de hoy, de los principales exámenes que Bruna prepara, comenzamos a hablar sobre el examen de inglés Aptis Advanced. Aquí yo uso la expresión bread and butter para referirme a este, que viene siendo algo con lo que te ganas la vida, ya que preparar este examen es bastante común en la academia. Bruna empieza a contarnos cómo es la experiencia de presentarse al examen. Ella piensa que es una situación un tanto robótica. Lo primero que haces es la parte del speaking, luego listening, y de ahí es tu elección la habilidad que quieras hacer. Estar ahí le pareció impactante, ya que como el speaking es la primera parte que se realiza, todos están hablando al mismo tiempo, así que hay que estar preparados para el ruido. Bruna cuenta que lo primero que hacen es revisar tu identificación. Luego dan unas hojas con los códigos necesarios para presentar el examen y separaban a las personas en 2 grupos. Nuestra profe nos comenta que cuando ella presentó había alrededor de 20 personas con ellas y que todos estaban prácticamente gritando al estar todos realizando la prueba oral al mismo tiempo. Para que quede claro, en ningún momento del examen interactúas con un examinador, incluso en la parte del speaking. Aquí solo tú respondes a las preguntas por un micrófono y te graban. Y bueno, queda claro que el ambiente es bastante ruidoso y caótico, por lo que hay que tener eso muy presente. Sobre todo si están acostumbrados a estudiar con silencio y tranquilidad. Quizás sería buena idea poner un poco de heavy metal o irse cerca de una construcción antes de estudiar para que se acostumbren al ruido. Ahora, retrocediendo un poco el proceso al mejor estilo Memento, para apuntarse al examen hay que elegir una fecha y esto puede ser una tarea difícil ya que muchas personas están en la misma situación. Hay que pagar la tasa, que es un poco más de 90 euros, 96 para ser exactos, haciéndolo la opción más barata en el mercado. Y presentándose a la vez que cientos de personas resulta retador si queremos encontrar una fecha que nos venga bien. Hay que estar atentos en la página del British Council, ya que solo abren inscripciones 2 o 3 días del mes. Ya saben, en estos exámenes hay que sufrir un poquito, incluso antes de hacerlo. Otro aspecto de esta prueba es que es multinivel, es decir, tendrás un certificado sin importar lo que hayas sacado. Esto realmente es algo así como un double-edged sword o espada de doble filo, ya que por un lado puedes tener un C1 o C2, incluso si tu desempeño no fue perfecto en todas las skills y sacaste, digamos, un B2 en listening. Sin embargo, el requisito es distinto para los docentes que se quieran sacar la habilitación lingüística, pues tendrán que tener un C1 mínimo en todas las habilidades. Y si todavía no lo saben, conseguir esa nota en el listening es casi misión imposible. Eso sí, casi. Ya para que no se desanimen, Bruna y yo hablamos de los perks de este examen. Por un lado, tenemos la tarifa del examen, y es que es uno de los más baratos, si no es que el más barato de hecho. Por otro lado, tenemos que su estructura es especialmente fija. Bruna también menciona que nuestros modelos son muy parecidos al modelo real. Además, no necesitan mucho tiempo para prepararlo. Y aunque no tengas 100% de certeza de lo que te van a preguntar, siempre puedes reciclar ciertas estructuras que hayas practicado, añadiéndole, claro, tu toque personal. Luego Bruna explica que al ser un examen multinivel, unas partes son más difíciles que otras, y como ya hemos mencionado, en general se opina que en el caso de Aptis Advanced, el listening es lo más desafiante. Pero de nuevo, esto también puede ser visto de manera positiva, ya que algunas partes se te harán más amenas que otras. Por último, también podemos considerar que hay casos en que tal vez no te sientas muy preparado, pero igual lo presentas para saber cómo es la experiencia y terminas sacando un B2, lo cual siempre puede ser de utilidad. Con respecto a cuánto tiempo necesitas para prepararte, pues realmente depende del nivel de cada quien, pero Bruna considera que, en promedio, Con un curso de unas 12 clases podrías ya tener buen entendimiento del examen. En Salón de Idiomas, el curso más completo lo ofrecemos con sesiones online en directo y acceso a la super plataforma. Por cierto, en cuanto a la parte del writing, podríamos decir que es de las que menos tiempo toma preparar, por lo general, ya que la estructura siempre es igual. A diferencia de otros exámenes que tienes que tener en cuenta una variedad amplia de tipos de redacciones, ya saben, como essays, reports, stories, and so on. Continuando un poco más con la experiencia de Bruna, volvemos a hacer énfasis en que al principio es ruidoso, así que no los tome por sorpresa. Pero luego, realmente, el ambiente es bastante tranquilo, ya que todos están enfocados en sus exámenes sin necesidad de hablar. Otra cosa que comentamos es que para la parte de listening, nosotros somos los que decidimos cuándo escuchar los audios, pero con el detalle de que tenemos 30 minutos para hacer todo el examen. Afortunadamente, añadieron 5 minutos en la última revisión después de que Bruna presentara el examen. Así que si tardamos mucho en responder o leer las preguntas, es posible que se nos acabe el tiempo. Aquí Bruna recomienda que las preguntas en las que estén más seguros, especialmente en las de la primera parte, solo la escuchen una vez para ahorrar un poco de tiempo y tal vez así ahorrar unos segundos o incluso minutos extras para poder leer con cuidado las preguntas de la parte 3 y 4, que solo se pueden escuchar una vez. También vale la pena mencionar que en la parte del writing tenemos un contador de palabras. Así sabemos si nos pasamos o aún no hemos escrito las suficientes, por lo que no tenemos que preocuparnos de ello, aunque sí vamos a querer prestar atención al tiempo, que solo son 45 minutos. Después de hacer el listening, ustedes pueden decidir qué parte del examen quieren hacer, y Bruna recomienda que hagan las partes que más les cuesten primero, para que cuando después de 2 horas de estar sentados y cansados, solo les quede lo que menos represente un desafío para su cerebro. Después de realizar el examen, hay que esperar 3 días hábiles para recibir los resultados al correo y después de un mes recibes tu certificado a través del snail mail o correo caracol, como dice Bruna, que es una manera de referirse al correo postal. Ya casi terminando, Bruna nos comenta que este examen solo se puede presentar cada 3 meses, así que hay que tomar en cuenta eso cuando hagamos nuestras planificaciones. Ya, para terminar, nuestra profe recomienda que, además de que obviamente preparen el examen con nosotros, tengan presente que puede ser frustrante, pero bueno, es solo un examen, al fin y al cabo. También recuerden incorporar el idioma en su vida diaria, no solo en las clases, y esto es un consejo que les sirve para el aprendizaje de cualquier idioma, no solo para aprobar el examen de inglés Aptis. Y ya con eso sería todo por el episodio de hoy. Y espero que lo hayan disfrutado y recuerden que siempre pueden escuchar los demás episodios, también ver todas las cosas que tenemos en el canal de YouTube o Instagram y pues también pueden llamarnos y agendar algunas clases. Y recuerden, practice makes perfect. Aunque sea el Aptis, aunque sea cualquier otra cosa, mientras más lo practiquen, mejor les va a ir. Así que los espero para un próximo episodio y espero que estén muy bien. Take care, bye. Esto ha sido una producción del Salón de Idiomas. Se reservan todos los derechos.